Hey guys, my name is Matimio, and welcome to another episode of Sunday Mailbox. This is a video series where you, the viewer, can submit your gaming or Battlefield 3 related questions, and then I will give my humble opinion on them. To get the formalities out of the way, if you would like to submit your own question that could be featured in a future episode, you can do so by leaving a comment down below or by sending me a YouTube message. So the first question for today comes in from Schmaggy Woka, who asks, I keep running into the problem of the Killcam being my worst enemy. I wipe out a group of soldiers only to have a medic show up, and now an entire squad knows my exact location. Some would argue that I should only play on hardcore or that it forces you to be constantly moving, but what about the 7-time scope or bipods? At the very least, I'd like to see suppressed weapons show no Killcam, as nobody is supposed to know a shot has ever gone off, let alone where the shooter is. So I, like you, get just as frustrated by the kill cam every once in a while. It's never fun when you're going on this awesome kill streak, you take out half a squad, but they're all on voice cam, they're all on Skype, and then they tell their buddy that you're just around the corner, and then you get flanked out of nowhere simply because of the information from that kill cam. And so yeah, that does get frustrating. But on the flip side, I understand why DICE has this in Battlefield 3, and really every other first-person shooter out there, why they have this mechanic in place, and it's simply because they're trying to reduce the overall frustration of the game, and also to combat camping snipers and camping bipod users, which ironically is the people that you think shouldn't have the kill cam. It would get really annoying if you died over and over again from a sniper that's way off in the distance, from someone who was bipoding in a bush, and you had no indication of their location, and you just died constantly from this player. That would get old, and that would get old fast. And the overall enjoyment of the game would probably be diminished. And that right there, that simple fact, is why DICE and pretty much every other first-person shooter out there has this game mechanic in place. So for Battlefield 4, I wouldn't get your hopes up. I do not think DICE is going to make any changes to this mechanic. I think it's pretty much concrete at this point, and it's just because they want to diminish the overall frustration factor that could occur if they didn't have kill cams. So the next question for today comes in from Motojin, who asks, I think that DICE should implement an infrared night vision 7 times and 12 times sniper scope in Battlefield 4. In Battlefield 3, the infrared night vision scope on the sniper rifles is useless because it's just a 1 times and you can't spot anyone on the long distance. I also think that the infrared night vision scope is more useful for the recon class than assault, engineer, and support class. So in theory, this sounds really cool, but once you actually start to think about how you would balance it for Battlefield 4, you start to run into some problems. If you guys remember when Battlefield 3 first came out about a year and a half ago, the infrared night vision scope was amazing. Everyone lit up like a Christmas tree, everyone was that nice green glow, no one could hide from you, and pretty much everyone used this attachment because it was so good. And then of course, DICE nerfed it, they nerfed it into oblivion to the point where we are today, but if you had one for a 12 times, or if you had one for the bolt action rifles, how would you balance it? Because it's meant for long range. I mean, that's the reason why you would have it. So is everything going to glow at that point, and your only weakness is that it's a 12, it's a high optic zoom scope, so you're not going to do very well up close? But then you run into the problem, well, if everyone is lit up, then why would you want to use a normal 12 times scope that's just standard? It doesn't give you that huge advantage of everyone lighting up like a Christmas tree. So in concept, it's a cool idea, but from a balance perspective, it's kind of a nightmare. In my opinion, what I would kind of like them to do is to either do 2 things. Either get rid of the infrared night vision scope, just completely scrap the idea because it doesn't really serve any real function in Battlefield 3, or make it so that it actually has a benefit where you're playing, if you're playing on a night map, you have an advantage over someone who was just using a normal scope. And I would hope that they'd actually go one step further and have night maps in Battlefield 4. And not like what we have in Battlefield 3, where it's basically just a darker filter, but real nighttime combat, where if you're not using the night vision goggles or you're not using the IRNV scope, you can't see anything in front of you. Or they could even go one step further, I know I'm kind of stretching here, but have maps that either have dynamic environments, but also dynamic day and night cycles, where you could play on Caspian Border on the daytime or Caspian Border at night, and then you could use the IRNV scopes, you could use night vision goggles, and have these amazing firefights, and just have a complete, maybe not really completely change the game, but you would have a completely different experience on the nighttime version of Caspian Border compared to the daytime, and that would be amazing, and something that I kind of hope that they do for Battlefield 4. So the final question for today comes in from Infernal Pro Gaming, who asks, "Hey Matimio, so with Battlefield 4 coming up, I got to some thinking. What do you think of DICE adding more in-game mini animations? A great example would be where you and a buddy could have to get over a wall. Instead of blowing it up, you could press a certain button to lift your friend and yourself over the wall in the process of an animation. I think a ton of these mini features could enhance the gameplay. What's your take?" So while I am completely cool with having more animations added into Battlefield 4, I think the one that you suggested is a solid one, but I wouldn't want it to get to the point where it detracts from the game. I get a bunch of suggestions or ideas from you guys with this mailbox submissions where you suggest all of these just different crazy animations that you think that should be added in the game. One of them, the one I get a lot, is do you think that there should be a counter animation for the knife animation in the game? It's like, how many animations do you want? It'll get to the point where it's just like you're going through this weird fight sequence with someone who's trying to knife you, you're trying to counter knife him, and then someone's gonna round the corner while you go through this 5 to 10 second animation and then put a bullet through your brain. And if it gets to that point, I think it would detract from the game. So as long as these mini animations that you say are added correctly and don't detract from things and it doesn't get too absurd, then I'm all for it. But what if it got to the point where you have to have an animation to walk upstairs? That's never gonna happen, but you kind of get the idea, then it's gone too far. But yeah, guys, that is about it for today's Sunday Mailbox. I hope you enjoyed. If you would like to submit your own question that could be featured in a future episode, like I said, you can leave a comment down below or send me a YouTube message. But until tomorrow, guys, have a good one and take it easy.